It's time now for a new feature here on the show. Thanks to our good friends at Classic Chevrolet in Grapevine. We'll bring you news from the world of racing that reflects the life and times of Chevy drivers. And the most famous and beloved Chevy driver of all time is Dale Earnhardt. This new segment is called Chevy Life, and in this week's edition, we find out how fans can honor the late legendary driver. On Monday, February 18th, Dale Earnhardt Inc. will hold its annual Candlelight Remembrance of Dale Earnhardt. DEI will open its showroom to the public and will illuminate it by candlelight. Fans are invited to attend from 6 to 9 p.m. at their facility on Highway 3 in Mooresville, North Carolina, sign the memorial guest book, and share their favorite memories of the Intimidator. Fans unable to attend are encouraged to light a candle at home that evening in remembrance of Dale's remarkable spirit and life. Support for the Dale Earnhardt Foundation is encouraged to honor Dale's passion for children, education, and environmental and wildlife conservation. For more information on the foundation, go to DaleEarnhardtInc.com/foundation.
You know, one of the cool new additions here on The Big Show is a segment we call Chevy Life. For some fans, racing can take on a life of its own, especially for following some of their favorite Chevy drivers. This week, we find out what the future has in store for the number 48 team at Hendrick Motorsports.
Lowe's and the number 48 car of Jimmie Johnson have become synonymous since his arrival back in 2002. And for those wondering if the longtime sponsorship would continue, the answer is yes. With the contract soon expiring, speculation that it would be coming to an end has been rampant. Although nothing has been made official, car owner Rick Hendrick recently announced that a verbal agreement is in place and getting something in writing is merely a formality. Lowe's currently owns the longest-running sponsorship in NASCAR and has certainly been rewarded with that loyalty. During Johnson's 10-year career, he has brought home 5 Cup championships and has been a constant contender.
You know, racing fans have always prided themselves on weaving the sport into the fabric of their daily lives. Fans are famously loyal to the drivers that help them identify with the sport they love. For the Chevrolet fans, the end of the Daytona 500 provided a lot of bragging rights for the new Gen 6 car. We find out how in this week's Chevy Life. Hendrick Motorsports has been carrying the flag for Chevrolet since 1984 and has represented the brand well over the years that they have been on the track. Last year, they celebrated their 200th win in NASCAR with Chevrolet equipment. In an impromptu celebration, Johnson gave owner Rick Hendrick a ride around the track so he could take a bow for the fans. Johnson's win at Daytona last week was the first win for the Gen 6 Chevrolet SS and marked the 12th consecutive year that he has put a Chevrolet in victory lane in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in another Hendrick Chevrolet SS finished in second place. Congratulations to Hendrick and Jimmie Johnson for their great start in 2013 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Now, racing fans know the Daytona 500 is the biggest event of the NASCAR season. The winner not only gets the prestige and a big payday, but also the incredible media attention that goes along with being the champion of the race. Jimmie Johnson drove his way to the front of the field and stayed out in front of the media all week long. We caught up with him at the House of Blues in Dallas, where he discussed his big victory and the rigors of keeping up with a very hectic champion schedule in this week's Chevy Life. Over the last few years, Jimmie Johnson has looked forward to driving on restrictor plate racing tracks, much like one would look at getting a root canal. Necessary and worth it, but with very little excitement. Last year, for instance, he was watching the end of the Daytona 500 at home after he was involved in a crash on the very first lap of the race.
But just have not had very much success in the 500. I heard a stat yesterday that since the 06 win, my best finish was 27th.
That's pathetic,
That's
Jimmy.
terrible. And last year I made 1 lap. I mean, I was literally crashing at the start-finish line. So, I mean, I went home, took a shower, climbed in bed, said, race surprise still on, flipped it on, and watched the finish of the Daytona 500 from home. It's terrible.
What a difference, though, a year can make. This year, Jimmie barely held off a hard-charging teammate. That, of course, Dale Jr., as Jimmie takes the checkered flag at the Daytona 500. He's still amazed at how much winning that one race can impact your life and your career.
It is amazing the impact of this single event in what it has across, our nation and in the world, all of motorsports. To pay attention to this, it's a big, big deal.
Johnson won this race before, back in 2006, and was struck by all the attention. But this year, he seems to be affected by it much more than the first time around.
I understand. I feel like I'm more mature today as a driver and somebody that's within the sport and how I fit in the sport, and I can appreciate this moment much more than I did in 06. I did all I could at the time, but 7 years later, it's just, a lot has changed. It's a much different world for me, and very appreciative of what goes with it. The other thing is my plate history has been awfully tough, especially last year. So to get that monkey off my back and finish a race and have it be the victory of the Daytona 500 is pretty big.
The ratings for the race were up 30% from last year due to a number of factors. The main factor, though, was the woman who earned the pole position. Does that make him feel like he is getting marginalized with the public's attention?
Danica's hype and involvement is ever present and awesome. I think that Dale Jr.'s finish of second, 1-2 for Hendrick, our win. There's a lot of great storylines, and many have asked, are you irritated with the notoriety Danica's getting? And truthfully, I'm not. It's great for our sport. It's great for me. We all know that from working in the sport, that if we can bring more fans in, it's better for everyone. And she has a large fan base and probably more casual fans to motorsports than anyone. And if we can take them from that casual fan and turn them into an avid fan, it's great for everyone.
With all of the media attention and the grind of the post-race media tour for the champion, Johnson also knows how to refocus on what is ultimately the main priority.
I'm very proud of the things I've accomplished and the trophies that I've collected, the championships I've won, and they mean the world to me. But I'm not satisfied, and I feel like with my age and how long you can race, drivers can race, the situation I have with Lowe's as our great sponsor and driving for Hendrick Motorsports, I want more of the same, and my hunger is there today as it was when I was younger. I feel like my approach is even better, and I'm more mature and understand the big picture, and I'm having more fun today while still being extremely competitive.
So what does Danica Patrick have in common with athletes Tim Tebow and LeBron James? What does she share with Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber? We find out in this week's Chevy Life segment. What they all share in common is a nomination for Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards. A fan favorite among women and kids, the popular NASCAR star is one of 4 athletes nominated for Nickelodeon's Favorite Female Athlete Award. She joins 2012 Olympic gymnast Gabby Douglas and professional tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams on the list. The winners will be announced on Nickelodeon on March 28th at 8 o'clock. Patrick was voted Nationwide Series most popular driver last year. Yes, it should be an interesting race to say the least. Now, Hendrick Motorsports has been the gold standard of all race teams over the last 2 decades. Veteran drivers Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon have 9 championships between them. But Hendrick doesn't measure success by past championships, only by how they are running right now. Well, with 2 wins and 6 top 5 finishes already this season, it looks like the team is right on target for another run at another title. Can they get the championship trophy back into their shop after a 2-year absence? We find out more in this week's Chevy Life. Since its inception in 1984, Hendrick Motorsports has become the unquestioned dynasty of NASCAR. Last May at Darlington, Jimmy Johnson notched the organization's 200th win, a milestone that no other team can claim. As a driver, Richard Petty won 200, but not all with the same team. Team owner Rick Hendrick has built an organization that prides itself on efficiency and consistency. Having that stability is important as the sport changes from year to year. This season, drivers have had to adjust to that new Gen 6 car and thus far welcome it with open arms.
The aero balance is different and much more forgiving. Hopefully that's going to promote, and I think it's the NASCAR's intent is to give us a car that's more stable aerodynamically, to create more side-by-side racing, to give us an opportunity to be more aggressive on restarts.
I've been really happy with the way the car drives, the way it feels in the corner. Like Jimmy said, it's, aerodynamics are a bit more forgiving, and just a good-looking race car. You get excited about getting in it and going around the racetrack, and I think the fans are definitely excited about the opportunities this car presents and the direction the sport's going.
Through the years, the car has changed, but the results have not. Jeff Gordon dominated the 90s with 4 Cup championships. In the 2000s, the torch was passed to Jimmy Johnson as he won 5 Sprint Cup trophies. Last year, HMS added Casey Kane to its stable. The Washington native rewarded Hendrick with a career-best 4th place finish. Being a part of the premier team in NASCAR is a dream come true for Mr. Kane.
We had a little bit of a slow start, but we got through that pretty quick and started really figuring the system out at HMS and working with the guys. I have 3 of the best teammates you could have as far as learning from them and working with them, trying to get better each week. And I thought we did a pretty decent job of that throughout the season. And when it all came down to it, we ended up 4th, and we have a lot we can build on going into the 2nd year, I think, with HMS and just myself and Kenny and the communication and just little things that we can both work on to get better.
And Kane has gotten better. Last week's win at Bristol was his first in 19 attempts. Getting a signature win like that is something that can propel a driver to new heights. Now in his 20th year of racing, Gordon got his breakthrough win at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That started a 10-year run that included 64 wins and 4 championships.
You just want to solidify yourself in the sport as a person that can compete for wins. You want to get into victory lane to prove to yourself that you can do it. Over the years, we built a heck of a resume of wins. Like that 98 season, and in 98 I just remember by about the 9th or 10th win, and we just went to the racetrack expecting to be there, and you can't appreciate it as much then. Now go fast forward to 2012, as up and down as last year was, I appreciate those moments more now than I ever have.
Earnhardt Ganassi Racing had great hopes going into last year's season opener at Daytona. Jimmy McMurray and Juan Pablo Montoya are 2 of the better drivers on the track, and their equipment is from RCR, one of the stronger teams in the garage. But somehow things got sideways, and they never could achieve any consistency. This year, however, is different, as the new Generation 6 car has helped level the playing field for all teams in terms of experience and development of the car on the track. How will the company bounce back from last year's disappointment? We find out in this week's Chevrolet Life.
Started in 1990.
Earnhardt Ganassi Racing is a team like no other in motorsports. Trying to compete at the highest level in any sport is a daunting task. Doing so in 3 different sports is unheard of, except at Earnhardt Ganassi Racing. This proud organization is doing just that, fielding cars in Grand Am, IndyCar, and NASCAR. With 15 series titles and 4 Indy 500s on the resume, the team has accomplished much in its 25-year history. But after a disappointing season in 2012, the team isn't resting on its laurels. They're focused on bouncing back and on excelling at certain tracks.
I think if you ask any team, if you can pick a group of tracks to be good at, it's the intermediate tracks, because we race so many of them. And it seems like if you can run well at those, run well at one of them, you run well at all of them. So there's a big focus from every team towards intermediate tracks, and we're no different. I really thought in 2010 that those were our best tracks, intermediates. We were really good at the 1.5 mile tracks, and there'll be a huge effort put into those this year.
Thus far, the results have been mixed, with Jamie McMurray hovering around the top 10 in the point standings, while teammate Juan Pablo Montoya is currently trying to break into the top 20. Having the new Gen 6 car has helped level the playing field and given Montoya some renewed optimism.
Yeah, I think it puts everybody a little bit more back into an equal field. I think, the Chevy SS looks really good, so that helps. Last year for us, it was a crazy year. It was a difficult year. I think all the restricted plate races, everything that could go wrong went wrong. We had blown engines, people wrecking in front of us, the car failing, and when we hit the jet dryers. There was nothing we could do to make it right. Everything you worked on and everything you did, there was always something wrong. Even, road courses, we were really good in both of them, and we had a fuel pickup in one problem, and the other one, a suspension broke. Things that are completely outrageous, that never happen here.
Montoya's bad luck aside, the Columbia native has never quite been able to live up to the height that came with being a kart champion in 1999. Team owner Chip Ganassi knows this season is an important one for McMurray and Montoya. After making great progress in 2010, the team took a collective step back last year.
The most competitive games attract the most competitive people, and I've said that before up here, and I'll say it again. We're here, and I think, like Felix said, we're all together, and just to have that courage to hang in there for us is when you have a bad year or two. you have to really take a look at yourself in the mirror sometime, and you really see what you're made of. And I'm very proud to see what I see when I look that way.
Despite the recent lack of success, Ganassi was able to land a new sponsor for the #1 car. The Cessna Aircraft Company was brought on this season in hopes of lifting the team to new heights. As McMurray sees it, the partnership is a natural fit.
Really cool sponsor. Obviously, you know, Cessna is about you know, precision and speed, and that is what our sport is. So that's a really cool partnership that the Chip and our team has been able to put together, and I look forward to the sponsor events that you get to go do with them.